Don't be ridiculous. That's unacceptable. You know what? I have no more use for you. You mean nothing to me from now on. I'm not going to give my money to someone who is useless, like you. I'm divorcing you, pack your things and leave. Immediately. I understand that I have no objection to leaving. Besides, we're just wasting our time talking like this. Let's talk to our lawyers later. I'm going to proceed with the divorce immediately. At that time, I left home with my bags. Everything I could grab, I grabbed. My name is Haley. I'm a mother of 2 children. The youngest just graduated from university and started working. I'm looking for a new direction in my life. If we were a happy couple, we could think about spending our old age together in peace. But I have no intention of doing so because my relationship with my husband Max has cooled. But that doesn't mean our life was without any love and affection, you know? From the beginning, I adored Max and respected him for his intelligence. I admired that man very much. I dreamed of a bright future with him for the rest of my life. But after 37 years of marriage, I learned to know his true intention. My husband saw me only as a tool to grow his company. Can you believe it? He started his own company when he was very young, and when we met, his business was already on the right path, moving. On the outside, he seemed to enjoy the marriage and didn't complain about anything. 10 years after we got married, our first son Noah was born. 2 years later, our second son, Brandon, came. By then, my husband had shown his true face. 2 boys? Haley, that's great. Now my company is secure. I don't care which son, only the best can take over my business in the future. At first, I thought he was joking, while laughing and talking. But as soon as the children started to understand his words, he demanded that his sons take over the company when they grew up. Parents should not take over their children's lives. This should not happen. Max, our children have to choose their own lives. So please don't do this. Don't say as if the company is the only thing that matters in their lives, you know? You don't understand anything, do you? It's natural for parents to pave the way for their children to follow. Of course, I don't disagree with that, but it's up to them to decide which path they want to take. All we have to do as parents is to encourage them. Then at that moment, my husband looked at me and mocked me. Do you know why I chose you to marry me? What do you mean? Because you were the granddaughter of the director of the famous bank in our city. Financial connections are essential for a company to grow. I understood very well that you saw some benefits in me. Well, not only that, you are by far the most brilliant woman I have ever met. I'm not stupid. I wanted to have good genes. If I'm going to have a wife, she has to be the smartest. If both parents have good genes, chances are good that the children will also have good genes so that I can pass my company to the best and brightest. Is that all you really wanted? Yes, why else did I marry you? He was a big jerk. A year and a half after my second son was born, I was shocked to hear my husband say that. It was terrible. Of course, I was attracted to him because of his excellence, but that wasn't the only reason. Starting a business from scratch takes a lot of hard work and determination. I respected him for the hard work he had dedicated to achieve his goals. But the man in front of me saw me only as one of the necessary ingredients to produce good genes. This couldn't be true. My mind darkened, but I couldn't stay in the dark. I have 2 children, and I want to raise them to be good, hardworking adults who make a difference. From that point on, I worked very hard to raise my children. Very hard indeed. It was complicated, but my husband was right. My intelligence had been excellent from an early age. Fortunately, my husband and I aligned our interests. My husband wanted to create an exceptional successor to take over the company. I want to focus on my children's education. We each have our own agendas, but this is the cost of my children's education. My husband invested money in his children's education as if it were an initial investment. As a result, They grew up to become excellent university students, just as my husband had dreamed. Mom, I'm going to work at my dad's company when I grow up. My oldest son, who was in the early grades of elementary school at the time, once said this to me. Noah, life is yours. As long as you can live without causing problems for others, I'll be happy with whatever job you want to do, my son. Life is yours, remember that always. Okay, dear? As a result, they grew up to become excellent university students, just as my husband dreamed. Mom, can I tell you my secret? I want to be. My oldest son always had a dream, but I think he knew his father would disapprove. But despite that, he pursued his dream and passed the bar exam and became a lawyer when he grew up. In fact, I used to work as a young lawyer myself. My oldest son was always interested in my work. Now he's very busy, having established his own law firm with a classmate. My husband at the time was furious with me and my son. You never told me you were going to be a lawyer. Why didn't you join my company? Do you have any idea how much money I spent on you? Get out of that damn office and come work for my company. My husband yelled in anger at my son. He just gave me money and left me to take care of our children's education. He was so rooted in his mentality that his children should be in his company. Oh. Well, no wonder my husband can't understand what they want because he never interacts with them. Dad, are you sure you want me to stop being a lawyer? What if I become a good lawyer? There may come a time in the future where I can help you, maybe even help you with the company one day. Besides, you're paying a lot of money for your lawyers right now. Even if I eventually join your company, I think it's better for me to be a strong lawyer now, so I can contribute to the company in the future, you know? My husband's eyes lit up at that. However, my son had no intention of joining my husband's company, that much was clear. My husband seemed eager for his eldest son to join the company, but it turned out he was taking a different path. I'm sure he was thinking about the benefits in the future. But there's another, more important reason. Our second son, Brandon, also has a direction of excellence different from his elder brother, Noah. My husband thought that Brandon, who would graduate from university in 2 years, would be in good hands if he joined the company. Because of his eldest son, my husband wanted our second son to join his company. He was relieved when Brandon said he understood. My second son, Brandon, was a child with a strong personality. Even when he entered kindergarten, he didn't join the circle of other children and did what he liked. But that didn't mean he didn't cooperate. He just spent his free time during recess in the classroom reading. He was always in harmony with his classmates. Brandon, dear, what are you doing? When I picked up my second son from kindergarten, I found him at the playground. He was standing with his forehead pressed against a tree. Mom, I'm a tree now, that's why I don't understand human language. I see, but Mr. Tree, it's time to go home now, can you get ready for that? Okay, Mom. He must have been a peculiar child to everyone around him. My second son was the type who did what he wanted. He became interested in plants and other living beings at a very young age. He worked hard to learn Mandarin and French because he wanted to read reports from abroad. After graduating from high school, my second son went to a university abroad to acquire knowledge. My husband was happy to see him. A polyglot businessman will take my company to the next level, he thought. However, after graduating from the foreign university, Brandon joined a research institute in that country. Of course, my husband was not happy about this. You didn't keep your promise, come back as soon as possible. He kept calling Brandon insistently. Brandon, when are you coming back? Soon, I think. Enough, come back now. I will come back home when I am tired of studying, Dad. Stop it, Brandon. My husband was yelling at him with a terrible anger. And that was not the only reason for his outburst of anger. His company had been facing financial problems for some time. He never talked to me about it, but my eldest son told me. I do not care about what happens to my husband's company. now that I have finished raising my children. My part is done. Since the birth of his second son, my husband and I hardly spoke to each other. Still, I am grateful to my husband for his financial support that allowed me to raise my 2 children. But now that they have left the nest, there is no point in preventing them from flying. I waited for the right time to divorce my husband. I told my children my true intentions and they both respected my decision. Now I have nothing left to regret, and the moment came surprisingly fast. Oh, I can't believe it. Max, I need to talk to you. Sit down. Yes, there is a file on the table. It's an unfortunate way for our children to leave us. Thank you for your 37 years of hard work. Thank you also for funding their education. So, let's take a moment to consider the rest of our lives. Yes, let's. Well, here I am preparing the divorce papers. Of course, I'm not going to leave you penniless. I'll give you $30,000 for immediate expenses. What did you say? You can't buy back 35 years of my life for $30,000. How not? I've given you a good life until now. A good life? What are you talking about? Every time you open your mouth, you insist on our children taking over the company. I never felt comfortable living with you, honestly. I'd like a properly calculated compensation. You own a company. That's not a small thing. I took care of everything for you, and that support allowed you to focus on your work until now, without any problems. I believe that when we fulfill our obligations to each other, our assets should be divided equally. Stop this nonsense. I'm not going to split anything with you. My husband's face turned red and he continued yelling at me. Don't be ridiculous. This is unacceptable. You know, I have no use for you anymore. You mean nothing to me right now. I'm not going to give my money to someone useless like you. Wake up. I'm divorcing you. Take this and leave. I understand. I have no objections to leaving. Besides, we're just wasting our time talking like this. Let's talk to a lawyer. Later, I'll proceed with the divorce papers. I grabbed my prepared luggage and left the house. I went to my oldest son's house, which isn't far from mine. Oh yes, now I understand everything. So Dad initiated the divorce. Yes, the divorce is definitely happening. What? Really? I can't believe it. As soon as I saw what was written on the paper, I was shocked. There was a note behind the divorce contract that left me intrigued. I called Noah and showed it to him immediately. I knew something was wrong. Mom, call the police. Now. What do you mean? Don't worry, I'll call them myself, Mom. It's important to have a record that you made a call. Okay, you're right. Whatever you say. 2 weeks later, my husband was arrested for fraud. He built a bank with hundreds of millions of dollars under the guise of a new commercial enterprise. Then, fearing that the fraud would be exposed, he ordered his employees to destroy all documents. The note was stacked behind the divorce papers. To me, he was a sinner, not a member of my family. He left a huge debt in my name. The divorce was finalized and it's been a while. Thank God. Of course, my ex-husband's company went bankrupt. He sold all his assets to pay back the money he had stolen from the bank, but he still couldn't repay the total amount. I was worried about the effect on my eldest son. The consequences. As a result of his father's prison sentence. In reality, as he was the prosecuting attorney, he became a hero for accusing his own father. As for me, I didn't get my share. To be honest, it was really hard for me to even think about it. Everything that happened. Oh. My first and foremost priority was to reimburse the money to his fraud victims, of which there were many. I'm no longer in the courtroom, but I'm helping my eldest son's company as a consultant. I'm very grateful to be able to work again. 6 years later, my ex-husband was released from prison, and my children went to see him without hesitation. My second son also came home, and they went to pick up their father. On the day of his release from prison, they said that their father thanked them. My eldest son offered to help my ex-husband as a lawyer, but it seems he refused. I'm grateful to him for showing his dignified spirit as a man. I heard that he's now working to pay off his debts in his old age. My ex-husband's life and mine will never cross paths again. I hope this incident gives him a chance to rethink his life. I received a letter from him once through my eldest son, but I refused to read it. My eldest son said I should read it as if he knew what it said, but I refused. My 2 sons grew up and became decent men, really honest. So I understand that my eldest son gave me the letter out of the kindness of his heart. I'm sure what's inside the letter was an apology for our marriage. But I'm not going to let my ex-husband console himself with the fact that he apologized, you know? I'm not going to make it easy for him. That's my little revenge. It's a small price to pay for 37 years of my life. I hope to live the rest of my life peacefully and fairly. Thank you very much for watching until the end. What did you think? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to our channel if you like this video, and stay tuned for more amazing news stories. See you in the next video.